Ellen Halls rode into Nathaniel Reed's yard at 8 o'clock on a July evening, with her one wagon and her one lame mule and her 5-year-old son Bram asleep against her ribs. And she did not, as many women in her position would have, ask for anything before she offered a plain day's work in trade. She said, from the driver's board, "Oh, sir, I am not asking for a meal. I am asking whether you have a day's work I could trade for the mule's shoe and a night's shelter for the boy." Nathaniel Reed had come out of the barn at the sound of the wagon. He was 35, sun brown, in a plain wool shirt with the sleeves rolled to the elbows. He looked at the wagon. He looked at the woman. He looked at the boy asleep. He said, "Ma'am, set the mule at the trough. Come inside. We will discuss work in the morning. Tonight, you eat what I eat, and the boy sleeps in the west room, and you sleep in the parlor. I will sleep in the barn. Please do not argue with me on the porch step. I am too tired for it, and you look too tired for it." Ellen Halls looked at him. She said, "Sir, thank you." She told him at the plank table over stew and biscuits how she had come there. Her husband Reuben had been kicked by a mule in April of the previous year and had died at dawn the next morning without waking. She had held his claim through spring and summer and the fall harvest alone, with Bram at her hip, and had kept it up through winter, with the help of an aging neighbor who had died in March. The county land agent, Mr. Pearl, had come out in May with a paper that said her husband's homestead required a marriage name signature within 12 months of a homesteader's death, or reverted to the county. She had had 13 months by then. The land agent had said very kindly that she was welcome to sign it over quietly and take the improvements payment of $42 and go, and that if she did not, he would foreclose formally with attorneys, and she would get nothing. She had, after 2 nights of tears, signed. She had taken the $42. She had loaded her wagon. She had left Kansas. She said, at Nathaniel Reed's plank table, "I have $20 left, sir. I have my wagon and my mule and my boy. I am willing to work as a housekeeper or a cook or a hand, if you have work. If you do not have work, I will move on in the morning, after the mule is shod." Nathaniel Reed said, "Ma'am, Pearl foreclosed on my brother's widow, the same way in '79. I have thought about that man for 6 years. What is your name?" She said, "Ellen Halls." Nathaniel Reed said, "Nathaniel Reed, please stay. I do have work. My hired boy left me in April to be married. I have been keeping the kitchen alone since. I will pay you $6 a week and board for you and Bram, and I will guarantee the arrangement through the winter. In the spring, you may leave with a clean settlement or stay. I would ask only that you be honest with me. If the arrangement stops suiting you, tell me so we may end it plainly." Ellen said, "Yes." She stayed the summer. She stayed the fall. She kept his house at a standard it had not seen since his wife had died in '79. She kept his ledger. She kept his kitchen. She kept his mudroom orderly. She kept Bram at the plank table doing his letters an hour each evening, and Nathaniel, who had never learned his letters properly, having gone to work at 11, began, on the 3rd evening, to sit in on the letter hour and to learn his own. By December he could read a McGuffey first. Bram, who was 5, was 1 page ahead of him and would not tolerate his mother's suggestion that they be equal. Nathaniel laughed once at the boy's insistence and looked across the plank table at Ellen and did not say what he almost said. In February, a spring storm laid up 2 of his crew with a fever. Ellen nursed both. Both lived. Doc Brill rode out on the 3rd day and said, at the plank table, that Mrs. Halls had done doctor's work at a hand's wage, and he was writing her a receipt she could keep in her Bible. Nathaniel said, at the door afterwards, "Ellen." Ellen said, "Nathaniel." He said, "I want to say a thing plainly. I would like to say it now, because I have been holding it since November. I would like to marry you, not because you are keeping my house, because I have been sitting across from you at supper 5 months, and my supper is not the same supper without you at the other end of it. I know the terms of our arrangement. I will not press you against them, but I am telling you plainly. Please think." Ellen said, "Nathaniel." He said, "Yes." She said, I have been thinking. I have been thinking since November. I would like to marry you. He said, then we will. The circuit preacher married Nathaniel Reed and Ellen Halls in the parlor on the last Sunday of March. Bram carried the ring. Doc Brill stood witness for Ellen. Old Sylvan the foreman stood witness for Nathaniel. Pearl, the Kansas land agent, if he heard of it, made no comment. But Pearl had been dismissed from his post in January for a matter of accounts that had come to light, and was, that March, no longer a man whose comment mattered anywhere Nathaniel Reed was standing. Afterward, on the porch step, Ellen sat beside Nathaniel and looked out at the pasture and did not speak for a while. She said, Nathaniel. He said, Ellen. She said, that paper in Kansas said the homestead required a marriage name signature within 12 months. It did not say the marriage had to be the first one. It did not even say the marriage had to be to a Kansas man. I did not know that at the time. I have known it a while now. I did not sign it back, because Pearl was not a man I would sign anything back to. Nathaniel Reed said, Ellen, you did the right thing. That claim was worth $20 an acre in '78, and is worth $2 now. You did not lose money. You lost a mule kick in 2 years and a bad land agent. You did not lose a marriage. You gained one. Ellen said, yes, I did. She put her cheek against his shoulder. 2 years on a warm September evening, Ellen Reed sat on the porch with Nathaniel beside her and Bram, 7, reading aloud from the McGuffey Second on the bench. A small daughter, Merritt, 10 months old, slept in the crook of Ellen's arm. Nathaniel had opened her a private savings passbook at the Cedar Bend Bank in June and had put $10 in it every month since June, and had told her plainly he would keep doing so until she had $150 of her own that no man could put a signature to. He would not tell her why. She had not asked. She had put another $20 of her own in it in July, from a preserve selling business she had started at the Mercantile. Nathaniel had noticed. He had said, mildly, Ellen. She had said, Nathaniel. He had said, good. Bram, on the porch bench, misread a word. Nathaniel corrected it from 3 feet away without lowering his newspaper. Bram accepted the correction gravely. Ellen said, quietly, Nathaniel. He said, Ellen. She said, do you remember the first evening, when I asked whether you had a day's work I could trade for the mule's shoe? He said, I remember. She said, I had rehearsed that sentence for 6 days. I had said it in front of the mirror in Wichita, and I had said it at 4 homesteads in eastern Colorado, and I had been turned away at every one. You were the 5th. I had 1 sentence left in me, and I was going to say it plainly. I had begun to think there was no ranch in this country that would take a woman who was not asking for charity, but was asking to trade a day's work. Nathaniel said, Ellen. She said, I want you to know that 5th was not a random door. I had been told at the Cedar Bend Mercantile at midday that a ranch 6 miles south was run by a widower who had been kind to his brother's widow in '79. I turned south. Nathaniel said, you did not tell me that. She said, I did not want you to think I had come for a reputation. I had come because I had been told a reputation was true. I wanted the ranch to prove the reputation to me itself, and it did. Nathaniel Reed put his rough hand along her cheek. He said, Ellen, I did not know I was being interviewed. She said, Nathaniel, every ranch is being interviewed by every widow who walks up the road. It is only that most ranches do not know it. He laughed once. She kissed him plainly. Merritt stirred against her chest. Bram read another sentence out loud without needing correction. Old Sylvan, from the bunkhouse porch, began a slow, small tune on his mouth harp that Ellen had come to know as his contentment tune. And Ellen Halls Reed, who had rehearsed 1 plain sentence in a Wichita mirror and had ridden 6 miles south of a Colorado town because a mercantile clerk had told her a rancher was known to be kind, put her cheek against her husband's cheek and understood that the good slow country had, in its good slow way, taken a Kansas foreclosure and 1 broken mule, and had, over the course of 1 plain honest year, given her a whole better ranch than the one Pearl the land agent had taken from her. And so it had.